Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Domestique Hotseat interview. We are into 2026 and we are starting off with an absolute banger. I feel like, you can always be at risk and people might start rolling their eyes. Oh, everyone's a banger. But you know what? To be fair, I think they kind of have been. So credit where credit's due. I think I think we're pulling some. And today we have El Tractor, Tim Declercq. He's on. We have a chat about everything. But his new role at Quick Step. We talk about being a coach. We talk about safety. We talk about nutrition and the impact that that's playing. We talk about Remco Evenepoel and whether he can actually win a Tour de France. And look, I think get your seatbelts on, put your stack hats on, because this is going to be a wild ride. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know him as El Tractor. It is Tim Declercq, mate. How are you? How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Starting to get adapted to the new life as not being a pro rider anymore. Now, not in the sun in Spain anymore, but yeah, just at home behind the computer or sometimes following in the car behind the rider. So yeah, it's a bit of a change, but I knew it coming, and I actually kind of like the job I'm doing.
Just having a look at your overall complexion, I think your skin will be very grateful for the lack of sun in Spain. I'd imagine you're someone who's a little bit susceptible to sunburn. Would that be fair?
Yes, I still had a check in the camp with we have a dermatologist to check, and he saw I had some on my ears. I had some damage from the sun. He said so. Yeah, I think that's from all those times outside. So yeah, my skin will be happy with that. And also, I don't know if you know some other parts of the body with having a little bit less amount of volume and intensity.
There was a Red Bull. I can't remember the rider off the top of my head, but the Red Bull photo shoot came out, and the rider is bald. It'll come to me later, and he's got tan lines where his helmet vents are, which is quite funny. I don't know if you know this, but Grace Brown, Australian ex-cyclist, now ex-world TT champion, she has her retirement project is to develop a sunscreen because she thinks that the Europeans just don't wear sunscreen. Can you vouch for that? Are a lot of...
I always also out of necessity, but I'm somebody who always used the 50 sunscreen also because I needed it, but I think it's best to protect the skin. It's indeed some cyclists have some kind of strange beliefs, but I was one of the guys who always used sunscreen.
As an Australian, I can my mum constantly has to have skin cancer checks. It's just something that is so normal in Australia. So yeah, 100%, just as a public service announcement, wear sunscreen and get your skin checked regularly. There's been photos of Matthew van der Poel after golf games, and he's just red as like a raw steak, and it's just, I don't know, it makes me really anxious. Look, mate, we have started, again, I introduced this to you just off air. We have started doing in honor of Wout van Aert appearing on The World's Smartest Man. I've replaced the quickfire questions with a segment called Are You the World's Smartest Man? The only person to do this so far is Mikel Froelich, and so you only have to beat 7 questions in a minute. So you've got a minute. I've got a random sequence of trivia questions. I think I've been kind to you, but we'll see how you go.
I'm already stressed out. Probably
it's easy to say I would know. There are some of these that I think are sitters. I don't know if that translates, but easy. And then there are some that I think are quite tough, but we'll see how you go. You've got a minute. It's just a bit of fun. So let's go. How many feet are in a mile?
I have no idea. It's time to use for the whole world to use the metric system.
What material is used in a curling stone?
No idea.
Which country is the largest exporter of coffee in the world?
Coffee.
It's the one you would think.
Bolivia.
Starts with
I
a
don't know.
B. Which famous historical figure was assassinated on 44 BC on the Ides of March?
Julius Caesar.
Yeah. Which city is the capital of Canada?
It's. I should know this. Canada. It's.
Starts with an O.
Ottawa.
Yes. And what is the chemical symbol of gold?
Gold. AU.
Correct. Well done. Okay, so that is your time. It is harder than you think, isn't it? A minute's not a lot of time to answer them.
No. Damn. So you used up too much time. I needed to be.
I think you got to. I should have told you can pass.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still getting the rules. But yeah, you can pass. But yeah, you got 3, and I think you got 3 hard ones. So it's 5,280 feet in a mile. I wouldn't have got that either. I wouldn't have got the curling stone, but Winter Olympics isn't a thing really in Australia. The coffee exporter I thought you would get because you're a cyclist. It's Brazil. And then the other ones you got all correct. So 3. That might make Mikel feel better about himself because he was pretty miserable after his 7. Okay. So starting off, let's just address the elephant in the room. Why the move to Trek? What was it about Trek that appealed to you after spending, 7-8 years at Quick-Step?
I think I did in total 7 years at Quick-Step, where I had a lovely time, of course, but sometimes it's also not bad to have some to find some new air. And also there was at the time a little bit of problems, I think, with also a bit with the funding, and in total the team was also going a little bit into a different direction with Remco and more focus on GC. But in the end I had some very nice moments there, and also I was happy to go to such a successful team like lidl-trek is and was. And in the end it made the circle round to go away for 2 years, and then to come back here as a coach. That's so that I don't have to go from the riders table to the staff table just from one day to another. So I think in the end it was the perfect way to go, I think.
So you've stated that in making that move to Trek, you had an interest in helping Mads in the classics, Mads Pedersen. So Mads this year scores a first place at Tour de la Province, and you were there. He's second at E3 Saxo, and again, you're there. Second at Tour of Flanders, with you there. Third in Roubaix, again, with you there. Before this happy marriage split up for the year and you guys went your separate ways, I think Mads went to the Giro or something and you started doing some different races. 2 questions. What was it like working with Mads? He seems like a really laid back and a really fun guy to be around. And second, would you say, having a look at those results and the results in 2024, that your partnership was a success?
Yeah, I think so. I think also Sportify, they were happy of what I could do. We also always had ratings after the race, and in the end they were always pretty nice, for sure, in the classics. But the overall level of the team, of course, was super high, for sure, climbing wise. So then to make it to the Grand Tours was not always so easy, but it was a real privilege to work with Mads. He seems like laid back, but in the end, training wise, he was for sure not laid back. I think he was one of the guys with with the most discipline. We had the same coach. He never really asked too much questions. If the plan was 7 hours, he went 7 hours or even more sometimes. So yeah, he really knew what he wanted, and yeah, he was also a leader that really stood up for his riders. I remember that one time where they wanted to put put a camera on my bike for some kind of race, and he saw it, and he said, "This is not going on the bike of one of my my domestiques." So yeah, that's actually pretty nice. So of course, only a small example, but he's a real privilege to work with such a champion like him, who really has the the mentality of a real leader.
He seems like he does come across as a bit of a prankster. There have been some, I guess, some of the shots. I think it was during the Vuelta, sort of sitting around on the couch. He seemed to be mucking around with a few people. Were there any pranks that he pulled on you, or is he not that guy when the camera's not on? Like you said, super laser focused on the training.
Yeah, and then of course we always had good fun at the table. We also stayed always a bit longer on the table. We had some nice conversations, but luckily I didn't have much pranks with me. I ended up in the swimming pool in the winter last year, but that was maybe the only thing.
Mate, that's rough. So one of the reasons why you have stated that you wanted to go to Trek was because it was moving towards a more science-based approach to training. Can you talk about what that looks like? What exactly does that science-based approach look like? And are you bringing any of that to your new role as coach on the dev team of Tadej Pogačar? Oh, yeah.
First of all, I would not say they're scientifically much ahead compared to Sudal Quickstep. Of course, they do have the power of money. Of course, this is something they really have, and that way they can also maybe they have that for as a big advantage. And of course, I was really happy with how things went there. But on the other hand, I think they are really not so much ahead compared to us. Like we also have even more. Yeah, it's a bit difficult. What I have to look a bit what I can say and what not. But
of course.
I think here we have also very nice cooperations with the University of Hasselt and also with the Baccala Academy. And I think, it's a bit similar. Of course, you sometimes have a little bit of different approaches to the trainings, but in the end, I would not say one team was more scientific than the other. But of course, it was nice for me to see a little bit of different approach, and then taking some things with me that I thought that was useful, and to combine both was actually pretty good, I think.
I think I had this question a bit later, but seeing as you sort of brought up the injection of cash that the Lidl partnership with Trek has brought in, and obviously Lidl has now become the major sponsor of that team. I think it used to be a 50-50 sort of share, and now Lidl's taken over. How do you feel? We're seeing Red Bull coming in and taking over Bora Hansgrohe. That's not Bora Hansgrohe anymore. That's Red Bull. I almost wonder what Bora is actually getting out of that partnership anymore. UAE coming and taking over. We've got these teams that are partnering. I mean, even to an extent, Jayco partnering with Alula. A lot of this big finance that is coming in. How do you feel that impacts the culture of these teams?
Yeah, I think you can see that in in many ways. Of course, it's always good for cycling if there is coming more money into the sport. This is a good thing. On the other hand, of course, you see it also. Sorry, with Lotto and Intermarché nowadays, the budget you need to just have a World Tour team, this has increased so much. Also the signing of riders and also the hunt for the biggest talent in the sport is also already like it used to be. Everybody started almost at a minimum salary, but now they're already digging so deep for the best talents of the sport. So of course, to have a level playing field, maybe it's not the best, but on the other hand, yeah, there's always gonna be economics involved in sports. So yeah, it's maybe harder now than it used to be for the little one, but in the end, if you have a good approach, I think you can still do something in cycling, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Sadar would be more than happy if someone came along and said, "Hey, we'll throw a bunch of money at you, but we expect you to win a Tour de France." I'm sure Sadar wouldn't say, "No, thanks. That's not our culture." I think at the end of the day, everyone is tripping over themselves at the moment to get money. But is that changing the cycling game? I mean, there's a lot of talk about these really super back teams. I mean, obviously UAE, 100 wins, knocking over records. You know, you knock out, everyone talks about the dominance of Pogačar, but you take out Pogačar and you'd almost back them 50-50 to win a Tour de France with Del Toro Ayuso anyway. Not Ayuso, Almeida. How do you think that is changing cycling? And is that for the better, or do you think there are some negatives that are coming with that?
I think, yeah, for the most part, again, it's beneficial for the riders, because I think nowadays to be a cyclist, I'm not throwing stones at previous generations, but now I think it's actually pretty hard, even much harder than when I started to become pro. Nowadays, the overall investment of what everybody's doing has just increased so much. Everybody's some are even so young and they're already 18, 19 years, they're living in altitude. Everybody's doing heat training, everybody's weighing the food, measuring everything. Like it's even, I think the total amount of hours even maybe went up slightly, but all those things you have to do next to the bike, they have increased so much. And I think mentally it has become a much more demanding sport than before. But the thing is, if all your competitors are doing it, you almost have you have no choice than to participate in this. So this is something I think is we need to look after it for sure. Our younger guys, that also the mental side of things is not overlooked, because I think it's best to have like still a gradual increase in demands for them, but the thing is, because it's for them also so important to already perform at such a young age, to already go into a good development team, because if you don't go into a good development team, your chances are already much less. And then I think there's a fear of it could be dangerous that there is too much early specialization, and also guys like, for example, myself and other guy who I was only at my best at 31 to 32 years. And I think those guys now maybe don't even, like myself, if I would be a rider now, maybe I don't even get to be pro. So I think that there's a potential that some later mature guys are maybe a bit overlooked.
Yeah, well, I was watching an interview that you'd done where you said you weren't sure. You said you identified quite early that you were not cut out to be a climber, that you were not cut out to be a sprinter, but that's where you earned your nickname, the tractor, because you can just push out a lot of watts for a long period of time. And I think your quote was without seeing much of a drop off. So, talking about that, do you think in the modern climate, would you have ever gone pro?
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, in the younger categories, they're also, I think, also harder racing from the beginning. So that would have also suited me more, I think, because I always tended to do better in where the race was not like waiting 4 hours and then just one time full explosion. I was not super in that, but I think the way of racing in youth categories would be more suited for me. But on the other hand, indeed, my work I had to do in the past, it changed quite a bit. In those classics in the later years, it was because they started always racing so much earlier. Also, all the domestiques had to step in way earlier, so it was not always seen as much as before. But I think the job itself was not less important. It just had to you had to have a shift in mindset because, for example, Tour of Flanders, my most important point of the day was everything until the Ekenberg, which is like halfway the race or something like this.
Yeah.
So, and then in the end, okay, I had a very good day and I could keep it until the second time Quaremont. But like in the past, if you say, yeah, you were only going to Ekenberg, they say, yeah, maybe we only pay you half of your salary because you only do half of the race. But yeah, the way of racing has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, almost. I was having a look at your PCS stats coming into this, and there are, and I don't mean this as an offense. I mean, hey, I'm sitting here as a guy that would never start a pro race in his wildest dreams. So to even be there, but there were a few DNFs, and I think that's sort of what you're talking about. That style of racing has changed, where you're expected to just be on the front and burn yourself up until that point where the team says, "Okay, Tim, you can pull off and chill now."
Yeah. And of course, you always like to finish, but the main goal of my race, of course, was to help the team the best way possible. And then, as long as I still had a chance to come back, I would always keep fighting. Like, for example, in Tour of Flanders. But then the moment yeah, now it's done. It's sort of you spend everything you could and you leave everything on the road, and then you think, okay, I made it to second time Quaremont. I'm super happy, but now I still need to do Quaremont, Paterberg, Koppenberg, Mariaborre, Taaienberg, Koppenberg, Kruisberg, Koppenberg, Quaremont again, Taaienberg again, Patersberg again. So you think, oh, it's only 8K to the bus or something like this. If I take the bike path, then actually the choice is sometimes easily made, because and that's something I would say I sometimes I miss a little bit in some of the young guys, and I know it's super important that you need all the fresh talent, and everybody's always looking 100% into in the watts that you can produce and stuff like this, but some of the mentality you need to be a domestique is something I sometimes miss a little bit in some of the younger guys. And I 100% understand why they have this, because if you can make results yourself, of course you can earn so much more money. You can have such a nicer career. Nobody ever dreamt of a career that I had. Everybody, of course, also myself. I dreamt to be the next Johan Messé or Tom Bonen, or really somebody with the explosivity of a Valverde or something who can really finish off the races. Of course, everybody dreams about this, but you have to know a little bit what you can and what you cannot do. And this is something I think we really go back to this approach also in Soudal, that nobody is bigger than the team. Like, no individual is bigger than the team, and that it should always be the most important that you do the best for the goal of the team, and not for the goal of the individual.
I don't think that's unique to cycling, though, is it? I mean, you think I in part of my main job, I teach and one of the jobs that we get given is we are told we have to coach a sports team, and I often get given soccer, football, and you get all these kids and they all show up and you say, okay, who wants to play defender? It's no one, it's crickets. And then you say, okay, how many of you are strikers? And everyone has their hand up. Everyone wants to be a striker. Everyone wants to be the next Tadej Pogačar. But I think reality comes with age. One thing that I wanted to, jumping back to your response before about sort of the changes, something that just constantly comes up on social media is this, and to an extent, I think, valid skepticism about some of the results that we're seeing. And I'm not saying valid in that I think there is validity to it, but I think, we are seeing consistently outstanding performances, and people draw a false dichotomy with the doping era. But one of the things that you were talking about there is the changes in nutrition. There was a podcast that I was listening to, the Roadside podcast, that they were interviewing Ben O'Connor, and he was talking about his nutrition when he first started, and he would go on an 100K ride with 3 muesli bars kind of thing compared to what it's like now. What are those changes, I guess, as someone who's been riding, having a look, it looks like you've been riding on a Conti level from 2012. Is that correct? Somewhere around there?
I was pro Conti then as well. So I was already professional, but then I was 5 years with Topsport Vlaanderen.
What are the changes in the sport that you think you can point to and say that is the reason? Like, if you were to make an argument for these are the reasons why you're seeing these things, what are those shifts?
Of course, I think it's adding up of a lot of different things, but I think most of it is nutrition, and then I would say most of that, of course, it's great to have all the measurements of nutrition and the weighing of the food and stuff like this. But for me, the biggest difference is the increase in carbohydrates we consume on training rides. Like also what Ben must have said, like when my first year pro, then sometimes we went also for a 6-hour ride, but we just drink water and maybe we stop after 3 or 4 hours at the bakery to eat some frangipane, some greasy stuff, because we were already empty. And then we get home completely like this, and we almost need to recover 2 days because we always rode until we were completely empty. And I think this is not backed by any science, it's just also a bit my personal idea, that I think there could even be something there, that's why the young riders are so good already at their age, because I think because they consume much more carbohydrate, they don't go into such a big energy deficit. I think there's even potential that they can reach a bigger potential of their bigger part of their true potential, because if you go always in an energy deficit, you're not stimulating your body to have those all the adaptations necessary to really fully develop. And I think if you can do that at that age, you're always still more susceptible to training and to structurally develop. Which is
That's actually like, I'd never. Every time it comes up, because I often get people jumping into my DMs and comments about this, and I've always said it's the nutrition in the races, but I'd never considered sort of the nutrition in the training rides, and that affording the ability to back up. Is that where you think a lot of those gains are coming from? Not necessarily like proper fueling in races, but the fact that people are eating more in their training rides, which is then facilitating better recovery.
Absolutely. I think
right.
Because you eat much more in the training rides, and also during the stage races, you eat more, so your recovery is better. You can go again the next day. The it's not the correct English word, but the gap you make is not as big. So you also from the races you recover better, from the trainings you recover better. So you can, instead of us needing to recover 2 days from that 7-hour ride, maybe the guys the next day they can go out again, and that way they can put in much more work than before, because like even with it, if you see the zone 2 ride the UAE team is doing, if you try to even the amount of calories you consume, it's crazy. I think some guys you can easily go to 1200 calories an hour. So if you wanted to do that in the past with only one stop for Frangipane, it's just absolutely impossible. Even if you have a 50-50 with fat oxidation, you just simply don't make it.
Yeah, totally. And anyone, some younger people will listen to this and they will have grown up in a time where eating is more normalized. Go and speak to some of the older people in your bunch ride, some of the older people that used to train at a level, and just ask them what they used to take for fuel on a longer bike ride. And I think you will be shocked. I remember going on 100K plus rides with only a banana when I was starting, and then wondering why I would bonk. So, I can 100% see it. Yeah. Moving on to, I guess, so you've jumped over to Trek. You're there for 2 years. What made you leave?
Well, in the end, I think it was a bit, somewhat like in the beginning, I thought I would stay for 1 more year. Like I always had the idea, or I stay or I stop. Like I was, I always at the last years of my career, I always rode for top teams, and with all the respect for all the other teams, but I was not going to go somewhere just to prolong my career. So in the end, I already spoke about it in the beginning. I kind of had the offer that I could stay 1 more year. So the sportive wise, it was not really a problem, but then some other issues started to come with not be the sportive thing, but also with the age, and because like we also saw in your analysis, lidl-trek was the oldest team, and they really wanted some younger guys, and I was the oldest one without a contract. But in the end, I know this is cycling, and this is how things go in the world. It's a hard world, and I'm I have absolutely no problem with anyone at lidl-trek. If I see them next year on the road, I will look back at some very nice years together, and also some guys will remain friends forever. Even some of the DSs like Mickey Scher, which was my DS, he's actually a super nice guy, and we still have quite a bit of contact. But then once I think it's like after the classics, because they were so happy, and also myself with my classic campaign, I was much more happy compared to the year before. Then I was still thinking I would continue 1 more year, but then afterwards there were starting some doubts because of my age, and then I thought maybe this is also the signal to move on and do something with my with my master's degree and all the effort I already spent during my career, because in the end was also, I'm not gonna say this was the main reason, for sure not, but I was always last year's very, very stressed going into a classic, partly because of the danger, but also partly because of the syndrome where I was in the night before, always thinking I would not deliver. And this was not just something that they put on me from the outside. It was more like really myself. It was nobody to blame, but this was really not a nice place to be in, that you the night before the classics, almost couldn't sleep, and you had to take Valium and stuff like this because you were so stressed. And then you started to think, yeah, maybe one night of bad sleep is not so bad to not perform. But then already the night before, you're also already thinking, now this night I need to sleep. And yeah, I really love to go out on the bike, to ride, to do some of the races where there was a little bit less stress. But this part of my career, I will not miss for sure.
Was that because, when I say you're getting older, you're March 1989, I'm September 1989. So we are pretty much the same age. So don't take this as an offense, because anytime I say you're older, I'm also the same age.
No, it's absolutely not.
Was that because you were getting older and you're worried about your ability to replicate those results? I mean, nothing, like you said, lidl-trek was satisfied with your classics campaign. Was it the switch to a new environment and you didn't feel settled? What do you think was driving that?
No, I think actually, if I try to analyze a little bit, it was already also before. Like, I came to Quickstep back, and they didn't expect too much of me. Like, and then actually I could always really fulfill the goals and always go longer and do more than what they were expecting. And you can do this for a few years, but then at some point they expected of you to always go so long or so deep or deliver that. And then sometimes I just had the fear that I would not deliver, or that I would not be into position because I was scared in the bunch at some point, or there's so many factors that you need to take into account. And if you, for example, it's easy to think when you look at TV, like, that all the main competitors always need to be in good position, like when the most important points on the race when they happen. But I tell you, when you're there towards that Evenepoel where that crash happened, where you go 85k an hour with handlebars, with everybody touching hands, where you really have absolutely no room for error, and also you don't have your fate into your own hands, because if some guy makes a mistake, you have absolutely no chance to save it. And of course, me as a domestique, if I'm not there at the front, if I'm not there at the perfect time to help Mads, I actually did a shit job for the race. So of course that gave me quite a bit of stress, and also because so that's the dog.
No, that's okay. Mine's asleep next to me.
Yeah. And then of course, because Mads was also a leader that always stuck 100% to your wheels. Sometimes you went through some holes, and you think, now for sure he had to brake. And then I never looked back in the bunch because I'm so scared. But then I was yelling Mads, and then he always stuck to the wheels. So he also put in a lot of faith into me. So then you also think it's not only for yourself, but also for your leader, that you really needed to be where they expected you to be. And sometimes, for me at least, it gave me a lot of stress. Like, sometimes too much thinking about things, like in a lot of parts it helps you a lot, but on those things it's sometimes better just to not think and just execute. But that's of course more easily said than done.
The problem here is you keep cracking open a whole bunch of eggs, and I want to go in a whole bunch of different directions here. There are two sort of avenues that I want to go down. So I think first off, what I'll do is I'll go you are now the coach, or a coach, at the Soudal Quickstep dev team. How would you go about, I guess, how would you bring that vulnerability that you've just expressed there, you know, that understanding of the mental pressures, how would you counsel some of those younger riders, or what would you bring from your experience to, I guess, assist riders that are going through probably something similar? Because what you've said, I can 100% relate to that. Every single one of these podcasts that I do, I'm waiting for someone to say, hang on, this guy's got no idea what he's doing. Like I get stressed about this. I think it is something very relatable, maybe not in the pro cycling world. How would you bring that experience into your role as a coach?
Yeah, so I'm not entirely. I also have 3 World Tour riders, but indeed most of my riders are Devo riders, and
Yeah.
I think the first part that I wanted to do is just to be there when they need me. Like everybody's different. I'm not a psychologist. I had some courses, of course, in university about psychology, and I think what helps you the most, I think, is just that you can be there and that you understand and that you know what it is, and be that coach who's like the closest to your athletes, where you have where the contact is good enough that they can come to you with the problems that they have, and that they don't fear judgment or anything. Because I have that problem, but maybe other guys have a problem that they fear they will not have, will not be able to put out the watts that we expect from them, or it can be anything, but just that you are there and that you can relate to what they are feeling, and that they just come with the problems to you, and that they don't have to fear that you judge them, or that you gonna say in the meetings that they need to go out of the selections because they felt bad on training or anything. I think in general that's the role I really want to have most as a coach, that that you're rider centered, but that you as a coach help your riders to have a better life, I would say, just because the demands on the riders are so much higher than in the past, like I already said. So I think, it's for sure some of the young guys, they really can have some counseling and somebody where they can speak out their hearts, and don't have to fear any judgment from my side.
So let's go to the demands. You've brought that up a couple of times, so I did want to ask, you know, you've been, like I said, we're sort of the same age. There are a lot of things that I'd imagine you had a kid in 2020. What do you feel, as cycling has become more demanding, what do you feel like pro cyclists have to sacrifice in order to achieve that level? What are the things that you feel like you maybe have missed, or the things that you wish you were able to do?
Yeah, of course, this is indeed, there is more in life than cycling alone. Like having a family, it's one of the it's the nicest thing you can have in life. It's but in the end, let's not be how you say it. It's not the greatest thing for your cycling career. It's maybe kind of bad to say it, but once you have kids, you want to be there for them, to see them growing up. You still miss so much, but compared to somebody who has no family, you can go to training camp whenever you like. You can stay in bed. You can recover every time of the day. You don't have that extra mental stress of what it is to be a dad, and also if you want to, you really put in a lot of extra stress for your partner if you have kids, because this is also, and then maybe they get also a little bit stressed, and this also comes back to you. So it's kind of a difficult thing to manage, and for sure it's possible to combine, but then it's another stressor you need to take into account. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was having a chat to Bree Vine, so Jay Vine's wife, I think, partner. They've got two kids, and she's just done a flight back from, I think they're in Andorra to Australia, and it was something like 20 hours on the plane with two young kids, and just the toll that the partners take, I think, is something that, you know, we always talk about the efforts that the pro cyclists are going to and how things are getting harder for pro cyclists, but there are partners in the background that are looking after those kids. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did that affect your relationship with your partner, with your kids? Is it something that had a detrimental impact? Did your partner, do you feel like she knew and was behind what you were getting into?
Yeah, first of all, I really have to give a big shout out to my wife, Tracy. She really sacrificed a lot, and yeah, we always try to put my career first. I never had to get up in the night, but yeah, it actually a big chapeau to her, because now, of course, now we try to shift it to 50-50, and I have to say, it's one thing when you're awake in the night because of the baby, but when you really have to get up multiple times during the night, now with our second kid, yeah, kind of hurts. It's like almost every molecule of your body says, yeah, stay in the bed, but yeah, you need to get out. So yeah, I have to say a big chapeau to her, because also, yeah, she also had to combine it with working still. So yeah, that was hard, and indeed, yeah, if with a cyclist in the family, it's yeah, it's not always the easiest way you take.
When you try and do, and I've got twin 3-year-olds, so when you try and do that 50-50, you do realize how much women just naturally take on, don't you? You're like, wow, I've really got to do a lot. Yeah, it's a conversation that we're always having, and I'm always saying I'm doing so much. And my wife's like, yeah, you're not even close to 50%,
No,
mate.
really, it
So
is.
yeah, I think
It's
yeah, it's always a challenge.
yeah.
Talking about that though, and talking about your family, let's talk about safety. So one of the reasons why you've retired is because of safety concerns. You've got a family. You were just talking about going 80 kilometers an hour on the back of someone else's wheel, just hoping that you don't come into some road furniture or a bump or something. Is this something that is operating in your head as you're racing, or are you really in the moment when you're racing? Like when I'm doing crit races, I often feel like the safety stuff disappears until before and after the race. And then you sit there and you think, wow, you know, or is it something that was more bothering you in the background when you're off the bike?
Actually, me, I also this is one of the things. It's always much better if you can leave this behind and not think about this. Just think that I need to be in position, but I couldn't. I tried so many times, but then I tried to analyze things a little bit, and I was, of course, lucky to be always more towards the front, and that's the most safe spot in the bunch. It's or you ride first or you ride last. So yeah, but I couldn't really put this aside. But on the other hand, I maybe choked on some points where I like on those descents where the speed was so high. Then sometimes I just drifted completely to the back. But on the other hand, sometimes I knew how I was thinking. So then I was thinking already before. So I said I already need to be in the front there, because as long as I could ride in the wind, of course I could hold it for quite some time. So then I already was calculating a little bit where I really needed to be in the front, because I knew from that point on the stress will be too high, and if I'm not already on the front there, I will not really be able to help the team. So I kind of adapted my my strategy a little bit based on that.
So with it's interesting the path that you've taken, because you've left the sport as a cyclist due to safety concerns, but then you've taken a role as a coach, bringing younger people into a sport that you've left because of partly because of safety issues. What do you think you can teach these kids, or is there something that you think you can impart on them to make the sport safer? Is there a way that as a coach you could push some more safety?
Yeah, first of all, of course, it's one of the reasons, the safety, but on the other hand, I was also thinking about if I would want my kids to do cycling, and of course this is a concern. I would always, you always would be a little bit scared if they go out alone on the road or also in the races. It's a super dangerous sport, but on the other hand, I think I would still allow it. I would not push for it, but I would for sure still allow it, because it gave me such beautiful moments. It taught me so much about life. It taught me about in elementary school they always thought that they always said that Jesus got all the talents and he divided it equally. This is something better. It's not true, 100% not true. But on the other hand, it teaches you a lot that if you really put in a lot of good effort, most of the time you get rewarded. And it also, the sport also taught me how to react on something that didn't go right, and I think this will help me a lot during the rest of my life. And I think everybody who was in sport on a decent level can relate, and it teaches you a lot, how you can bounce back from a setback. And I think this will help them, my kids or anybody who's still participating in cycling. These are things that I think this is really valuable for the rest of the life. So I think in the end, it's still a very beautiful sport. And of course, there are some issues with it, but it still remains beautiful.
Yeah, so we've had the UCI then mandate handlebar width and wheel depth, but this is in the same year, I believe, that they've allowed the depth of tubing to increase. So you're getting longer front ends in regards to the down tubes, the forks, which increases aerodynamics, which speeds up bikes. But then also they're reducing or increasing the minimum width for handlebars and reducing the maximum width for wheels. This seems counterintuitive to me. So how have you felt about the UCI's overall response to rider safety?
Of course, I first of all, I really am a fan of the minimum handlebar width. I think this, of course, I know it's a little bit difficult to also hold back the scientific improvements that are happening in the sport. Also, otherwise, why would you ever want to buy a new bike if nothing can improve about it anymore? So I think this is something they also needed to take care about. And I know this is very hard to address, because individually I always understand why all the riders want to be in front, but actually the biggest problem is the riders themselves, without throwing a stone to nobody, because it's just so important to always be there in the front, and there's only place for 20 riders in the first 20. And I think this is the most this creates, of course, the most crashes. The overall level of the bunch is so much higher. You have the domestiques who really want to do something and want to be there, but everybody's, of course, screaming through the radios that you need to be in front. And if I ever do a race as a DS, I will also not say stay in the back, stay in the last 5 positions, just to be. It's just something that's inherent to our sport, and with the overall level that's so much increased, I think there's sad it is, but I think this is the biggest concern in cycling, and for that, of course, I'm never the biggest fan of repression, but I think the yellow card system is something that's really necessary, and of course we have to try to do more for cycling, but I also don't really see one solution that would solve all the problems.
Yeah, we've got our two sports in Australia. The two major winter sports are AFL and rugby league, and both of them involve very heavy people running directly at each other with a football. And at the end of the day, that's an inherently dangerous sport. And there is a talk about how you improve safety, but you can only do it to an extent. Do you feel, to an extent, at the end of the day, cycling is a bunch of people trying to go really fast on bikes, where the end game is that you have to be the first person to cross the line or you don't get any bickies, and that is inherently dangerous? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Kind of, yes, because this is actually a good summarization of what I said. But on the other hand, it's maybe a bit naive, but I have something I don't want to settle for that idea. I know it's super hard, but I think we still we owe it to all the riders that we are coaching or anything, that we still at least keep on thinking about solutions. Although I think it is gonna be hard, but yeah, in the end, maybe in the years 20, 30 years ago, they also said maybe it's impossible to always race with a helmet on the head, because it's heavy and you sweat a lot and stuff like this. But then once there's an obligation, maybe they could, in theory, also make some an airbag system or something like this. Like maybe there could be some technology that could help. But on the other hand, I hope there will also be a little bit shift in mentality. That's of course it's always gonna be important to stay in the front, but having your life, I think, is always more important, and like having a little bit more respect towards each other in the bunch. I think this is something that where the whole bunch could benefit from. And sometimes I was even thinking, sometimes at some moment when the positions were made, sometimes I said to the riders close to me, we just stay in position. Positions are made now, and I think most of the times they also kind of listen to this, because in the end you're just overtaking each other at some points, and they just make it like super dangerous, more dangerous. So but again, I individually, I understand it from everybody, of course, that they want to be in position, because it's just so important.
Yeah. So I guess a pretty hard pivot here, but we're coming towards time, and I did want to ask you this one because we've just seen him in his Red Bull kit for the first time, and Remco Evenepoel, for anyone that hasn't seen it, go and have a look at a photo of Remco in a Red Bull kit. He does look fantastic. But I wanted to ask you about Remco because you have worked with him in the past. He's moved over to Red Bull. He's openly stating that his goal is to win the Tour de France. That was the goal at Quick-Step, also with Remco. In the current climate, given that Tadej Pogačar is at the top, we've got Vingegaard pretty much exclusively targeting the Tour every year. He's number 2 coming into it. Then we've got riders like Lipovic, Sexas coming up. Can Remco win a Tour de France, do you think?
Of course, it's a bit difficult question. I would say if you just look at the data, then if you want to match the level of the day on the climbs, the watts per kilo and stuff like this for X amount of duration, it's just simple. I would say that if Tadej stays on the same level, he has to step up a level, which is, I'm not saying it's impossible, but he will have to produce watts that he hasn't produced before. I would say.
Yeah.
And I say this with the biggest respect for Remco. He's the most amazing rider. He did such incredible results. Also, being already third at the Tour, it's like, yeah, it's crazy level. But it's just with Tadej on his level. I'm not gonna say it's impossible for Remco, because of course a lot of time he didn't have the best preparation and a lot of crashes and not really not being able to build year by year by year, where there is really something in it. But if you want to beat him, he needs to produce power that we haven't seen from him before. But again, I don't say this is impossible.
Alternatively, the Tour de France could put, instead of the Mont Ventoux and Alpe d'Huez, they could have a 40-kilometer time trial. So maybe 4 or 5 time trials in there, 40 kilometers each. Remco might win that. Or alternatively, in Australia, we've got an expression to Stephen Bradbury. We had a speed skater. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically he was coming last in the gold medal race and everyone in front of him crashed and he won the gold medal. And I think he's our only gold medal ever in speed skating. Yeah, you would never want anyone to crash, but personally, I think at the moment, that's how Remco, that's his path to Tour de France victory. I want to end on something a bit lighthearted. So you got a nickname El Tractor. First up, I wanted to ask, do you know who gave you that nickname? Was it one of those ones that just sort of popped up, or can you reveal?
Actually, I asked this to our the press officer in Soudal Quickstep, Alessandro Tenier, because he actually came to me with that one of the Argentinian commentators on TV in my first race with Quickstep, because I was the whole time or on the front or dropped in that race alone. So then he started with this to call me El Tractor, and Alessandro asked me if I liked that nickname, and I think it 100% suited me. So yeah, I just got along with it. But actually, I have no idea who that person exactly
So
was.
as an Argentinian commentator,
Yeah.
I love that. I
Tour of
also love the
Swords.
fact that you guys get asked if you like your nicknames. In Australia, you get given a nickname, and the more you hate it, the more likely it is that nickname will stick. So if you get a nickname that you don't like, you are better off pretending that you really love it, because it probably won't stick then. The follow-up to that then is, what do you think is the best nickname for a rider in the peloton?
Oh, this is hard. Yeah.
Or are there any that are just so fitting, like El Tractor, that I think everyone has just accepted, like that is your nickname?
I'm really happy. I would always say I don't like it too much if the riders gave the nickname themselves.
Yeah.
Like, this is just the one thing, and on the other hand, yeah, the Italian ones in the past I always loved too much, because of the Italian accent. This always gives so much more, a little bit more of cachet towards their name.
Anything said in Italian is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, before we close then, what do you think the future looks like for you in cycling? Do you have dreams of becoming a DS, or are you looking at doing coaching for the future? You talked about a degree.
Yeah, I have my master's degree in movement sciences, so this is already something I'm very happy with, that I have this. And I also have already this winter I did my exam to be a DS also, but I specifically want to be a coach, because I think I have the scientifical background and also the practical background for really knowing how it is to do the Grand Tour, or how it feels to do those 40-20s or this kind of effort. And I think this is something not too many people have. So yeah, I'm really happy with the role I have now to coach already 11 riders. But yeah, of course, I would love to grow also a little bit in my function yet. But we have a great group of coaches. It's super nice to work with the other coaches, and they give me already quite a bit of responsibility also to help them to check the whole lines, for example, how we're gonna really implement the training camps and stuff like this. So yeah, I really like it, and let's see how things develop.
Always have to chuck that question in at the end now, because when I interviewed Marcel Kittel, he released the next day that he was going to be the sprint coach for the Unibet Rockets. And always in my head, it was like, I should have just asked him what was in the future. And if you look at his announcement and you look at the video that our podcast, he's literally in the same outfit, which means he's either gone from recording our podcast to do their videos, or he's gone from doing their videos to do our pod. So I'm just having a look at the outfit you're in, and if you go and announce that you're the sprint coach or something for the Sedal team, I'll be I can at least say I asked you that question.
Yes, indeed.
Look, Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you giving me the time, and yeah, look, best of luck with the season 2026, and yeah, I'm really excited to see how you guys go, especially in the classics.
Yeah, me too. I also look forward of how we're gonna do it as a whole team, and of course also some of the young guys I coach. I really am curious to see how they will perform next year.
Yeah, well, actually, very quickly, are there any names that people should look out for that are coming up? Any people that people should be keeping an eye
on? Of course, it's always hard to really pick.
This is a hard one, because anyone you don't mention is going to say, "Well, what's wrong with me?"
Yeah, I think I of course, you had my road to riders I coach. I also look forward how they are doing it, like Bert, Modi, and Wara. But I think from what some of the data I saw, I think I coach. I am the coach now of new Mexican guy, Said Cisneros, and I think there really could be something there. He's still only 18 years old. I think that he really has some potential, but of course, yeah, you really don't know how much improvement you still have. He's also now working on his English, because this is kind of a barrier at the moment, but also guys like Erazen, Valjavet, Savino, also Cyril de Sal, Stan van Tricht. I look forward to really see what those guys are capable of. But in the end, if I have to say one thing, I was amazed by the power most of them could put out. So just a little bit work on the fatigue resistance, and I think we can have a better season with the Devos than we had last year, for sure.
Well, I look forward to watching it, and yeah, greatest success in 2026, mate.
Okay, see you, man. Thank you. Bye-bye. Ciao.
All right, look, hope you enjoyed. We got another one coming out next week. It's going to be fantastic too, and I mean that with full sincerity. So yeah, I would say subscribe or whatever you do on your podcast platform of choice, and if you can jump over to the Domestique Instagram page, chuck us a follow, and also while you're there, why not chuck Burgess and his bike a follow? Shameless plug. Could do it. Do with it. It increases the profile, and that always helps in getting stuff like this. And yeah, happy New Year, guys! It's 2026. That's crazy. Anyway, heaps more to come. 2025 was good. 2026 is going to be fantastic. So make sure that you're sticking around for this season. Some big things coming, hopefully with the Tour Down Under, that we can get going. Some pretty cool riders that we're hoping to line up there. Anyway, See ya.